The 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter, is gearing up to campaign in a bid for second term in office. He would lose the following year to California Governor Ronald Reagan. Superman the movie, starring Christopher Reeves as the Man of Steel, enters its fifth week as the #1 movie in the world, continuing to smash box office records. Le Freak by Chic tops the Billboard charts and dominates the airwaves, proving to many that disco is not dead. In Las Vegas, Fremont Street is the place to be, with upscale casinos such as the Horseshoe, the Four Queens, and the Golden Nugget are considered the gems of the desert. Star-studded shows, cheap buffets, and sparkling pools entice tourists to the valley with dreams of striking it rich with every pull of the slot handle. Mob control still reigns supreme. Everyone, however, including the authorities, turn a blind eye to the illegal activities, reinforcing the name Sin City. 7 miles away, on a quiet, secluded cul-de-sac just east of Decatur Boulevard, a 16-year-old puts on her rabbit fur patch jacket and begins her journey to school, as she has done hundreds of times before. Little did she or anyone else know this would be the last time she would ever make this journey. Today, my journey takes me to the west side of the Las Vegas Valley to study the last known movements of a young woman who, in 1979, was abducted from an ice cream shop across the street from her local high school. Her body was found 3 weeks later and approximately 5 miles from her abduction site. Today, I'm going to be visiting multiple locations, including the home where she lived, the high schools she attended, the former ice cream shop where she was abducted, and the location of where her body was found. Kim Bryant was born in August of 1962. She was described by friends as witty, with an eclectically exuberant disposition that reflected in her choice of clothing. She volunteered with the Special Olympics, and her family were friends with the former governor of Nevada, Mike O'Callahan. At the time of her abduction, Kim Bryant lived at 5413 Banjo Circle with her mother, Sherry, and her stepfather, Edward Elliott. So this is Western High School on the corner of Bonanza Avenue and Decatur Boulevard. This was the school that Kim attended in 1979. That day was wasn't like most other days. The day that she went missing was actually registration day. And that meant that those were days where they would come in and sign up for classes that they were going to take the following year. In Kim's case, that was going to be her junior year. So after she arrived, she completed her registration and met up with a friend. At this point, they haven't said exactly who that friend was, because she was a juvenile, obviously, at the time. After completing their registration, they left here. They went straight ahead down this road and made a left right down there at the stop. So on January 26th, Kimberly walked across from her football field, they say. This is the Western High School football field here. she came down, she went across to a Dairy Queen across from the football field, which that right there, 115 North Decatur, was a Dairy Queen in 1979. Now it's a Cuban food place. But a telltale sign, if you look, they've taken the Dairy Queen sign down and put that up. But that was where she actually went. Now, shortly after Kim and her friend arrived at the Dairy Queen, located here at 115 North Decatur Boulevard, a vehicle, later described by witnesses as a primer gray, late 50s model Chevy, pulled into the parking lot. The two male occupants attempted to lure Kim and her friend into their vehicle. Witnesses further reported that the male occupants used sexually charged phrases towards the ladies. Not having any of it, Kim fired back at them with some words of her own. After a brief obscenity-laced exchange, the vehicle sped out of the parking lot and turned south on Decatur Boulevard. Now, at about 10:05 a.m., the mother of Kim's friend arrived to pick up her daughter. Her friend's mom offered Kim a ride home. Kim asked her friend's mom if she could wait, and she ran to a payphone to call her boyfriend. Her boyfriend answered the phone and told Kim that he was on his way to get her. She promptly returned and politely declined the ride. The friend and her mom left Kim in the Dairy Queen parking lot at approximately 10:10 a.m. Approximately 15 minutes later, at 10:25 a.m., Kim's boyfriend arrived in the parking lot of the Dairy Queen. After searching for 15 minutes and being unable to locate her, Kim's boyfriend assumed that she had caught a ride with her friend and her friend's mom, and he returned home. About an hour and a half later, around noon, a driver traveling on Decatur Boulevard noticed a backpack laying in the center median of the road. Curious, she stopped and collected the backpack. The driver would later recount to police, after finding the backpack, she immediately pulled into a local business. After searching the backpack, she came across Kim's ID. The driver told police that she used a nearby payphone and attempted to contact the Bryant residence multiple times. After receiving no answer, the driver told police she retained the backpack and went on with her day. Back at the home on Banjo Circle, Kim's mom, Sherry, became worried when Kim had not shown up to go shopping with her. Sherry left the home and went searching for Kim. As darkness settled on the Las Vegas Valley, Sherry and Edward Elliott reported Kim missing to the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. While speaking to her parents, the police learned of the argument that had taken place between Kim and her parents the night before. At this point, the police dismissed Kim's disappearance as nothing more than a runaway. Irritated and undeterred, Kim's parents continued to search for her into the early morning hours. Shortly after midnight, and being unable to find her, Kim's stepfather, Edward, stormed into a local police station and demanded that they do something about Kim's disappearance. A few hours later, detectives arrived at the house. While searching her room, they found Kim's diary. In the diary, they found several passages detailing several arguments with her parents and Kim speaking about her desire to run away from home. Armed with this information, the police again dismissed it as nothing more than a runaway situation. A week later, after learning Kim's backpack had been found by the passing motorist in the median, they realized the gravity of the situation. 5 days later, on February 3rd, 1979, a small article about Kim's disappearance appeared in the Las Vegas Review-Journal. For 3 weeks, no one saw or heard from Kim. On February 20th of 1979, 3 young teenagers were hiking in the desert near Buffalo and Charleston Boulevard. They had gone there, ride their bikes, and shoot their BB guns. The oldest of the 3 boys noticed what he believed to be a wig laying on the desert floor. As he approached, he discovered the body of Kim Bryant. Her rabbit patch jacket lay a few feet from her partially clothed body. Purely by coincidence, the boys happened to notice a police cruiser patrolling Charleston Boulevard. The boys frantically waved down the passing officers and quickly reported what they had found. It was not long before police descended on the area and cordoned off the scene. Okay, so as you can see, this is the power station. So 1979, this wall didn't exist. This wall did not exist whatsoever. Everything you see around you right here, everything you see, this was all unincorporated at the time. It was something that, well, for lack of a better word, was still all desert. That housing development right over there didn't exist. And it was in this desert right here that 3 young men were going for a hike, rather, I should say. And one of them came across what he believed was a wig laying in the ground. Mind you, this was February 20th of 1979. And as they were hiking, they came across what they believed to be a wig. And that was 42 years ago today that took place. After discovering Kim's body, a story the press had failed to report on was suddenly splashed across the headlines of the local and national media. Initial stories indicated that Kim had been killed just a few hours after she had been abducted. The coroner later revealed that Kim may have lived for up to 4 days after the abduction. The autopsy further revealed that Kim had died from blunt force trauma to the head, most likely from a rock found somewhere in the desert. The autopsy noted that Kim had defensive wounds on her hands, showing that she had attempted to fight her attacker. Kim was laid to rest at Paul Memorial Cemetery a few days later. Thousands of spectators attended Kim's funeral, including family friend, former Nevada Governor Michael Callahan, who delivered remarks at the funeral. Initial suspicion fell on the occupants of the Brimer gray Chevy seen hassling Kim and her friend at the Dairy Queen the same day she disappeared. In the days following, several other teen females who attended the same school as Kim came forward to describe the same 2 males and the vehicle as approaching them in the parking lots as well. The teens reported that the 2 men attempted to lure them into the car by offering to sell them jewelry. When the females would turn down the men would make sexually charged statements and yell obscenities at them before speeding away. A composite sketch of one of the men, most likely the passenger, and the suspect's vehicle were compiled and shared with the local and national media. Lead Detective Bob Hiller described both suspects as being between the age of 18 and 20 years old and appeared to be, quote, grubby hippie types. Suspiciously, the vehicle nor the occupants were never seen again. On January 27, 1979, the day after Kim's abduction, a 37-year-old roofing contractor by the name of Bobby Gene Thomas was reported missing. His naked body was found a month later on an access road approximately 1 mile from the Hoover Dam. Thomas was known to authorities after attempting to abduct 20-year-old Christy McKinley while she was attempting to start her stalled vehicle on Las Vegas Boulevard. Thomas was later charged with assault with intent to commit a crime and found guilty, spending a few years in jail. A few years later, after his release, he was again charged with statutory rape and manslaughter in the death of his girlfriend's 14-year-old little sister. Thomas and his lawyer successfully negotiated a deal to plead guilty on the statutory rape charge if the manslaughter charge was dropped. The plea, however, worked against him, and his bond was immediately revoked, and he was sent back to jail. He was sentenced to the max and given 10 years, but, like most criminals, only served a small portion of his sentence. A week following the discovery of Thomas's body, career criminal Robbie Lynn Fain was arrested for the murder of Thomas. Fain and his lawyer struck a deal with the court stating he would plead guilty to the lesser charge of second-degree murder, but would provide to the court the details that would close the murder of Kim Bryant. Fain would go on to tell the courts on January 27th, after a day of drinking with Thomas and 2 other men, Thomas began bragging to him about taking part in the abduction, rape, and murder of a teen the day before. Having served several years in prison, Fain stated he was bound by prison law to seek revenge on the pedophile that would do such a thing. Fain confessed, stating that after he dropped the other 2 men off, he returned to his home with Thomas that he shared with his girlfriend, secured a knife, and returned back to his vehicle. Fain admitted that upon immediately re-entering the vehicle where Thomas was at, he attacked him with a knife, and after being sure Thomas was dead, drove to the area and discarded the body near Hoover Dam. Fane went on to pass 2 separate lie detector tests. The police agreed that Fane had definitely killed Thomas. However, inconsistencies and doubts surrounded whether Thomas was actually the killer of Kim Bryant. In 1977, a construction worker by the name of Robert Ireland arrived in Las Vegas and soon met and married a school teacher by the name of Sylvia. Later, while visiting Sylvia's mother in New Haven, Connecticut, Robert convinced Sylvia to join him at the local Bureau of Vital Statistics to obtain a copy of his original birth certificate. Upon their return to Las Vegas, Ireland legally changed his last name to reflect what was on the birth certificate, and that name was Robert Fred Generoso. In early 1980, 18-year-old Susan Belote left her job at about 4 p.m. and disappeared. 6 months later, on May 26, 1980, her body was found in the desert a few miles outside of St. George, Utah. During this time, Generoso had begun an extramarital affair with a woman by the name of Cheryl Daniels. Upon learning of his marriage to Sylvia, Daniels broke the relationship off. A few months after Belote disappeared, Daniels and her boyfriend arrived at a supermarket. Her boyfriend left Cheryl in his Jeep to go on inside and grab some groceries. When he returned 15 minutes later, he noticed his vehicle had been moved. Approaching his vehicle, he discovered that Cheryl's purse and several other belongings were still inside the vehicle. Cheryl, however, had disappeared. 6 months later, Cheryl's body was found by hikers less than 3 miles from where Susan Belote's body had been discovered. Police were able to recover an ID left near the body. The ID bore the name of Robert Fred Generoso. During the time of the 2 girls' disappearance, Robert and Sylvia had divorced. Robert had taken his work tools and his work vehicle, known as a Ford Ranchero, and had set himself in an apartment complex located on Decatur Boulevard, only a few miles from Kim's home. As the heat was turned up on Kim's case, a man came forward to state he had actually seen Kim's abduction. Waving it off at the time as nothing more than a high school prank, he identified the vehicle that Kim had been forced into as a Ford Ranchero. Sherry and Edward Elliott, Kim's parents, also described a meeting a friend of Kim's named Robert. They said he was older, possibly early to mid-20s, and had arrived to take Kim skating. They stated Robert had given them an eerie vibe, and they both noted that he drove a Ford Ranchero. In 1981, Generoso's true identity came to life. While stalking the friend of Cheryl Daniels, Generoso was identified as Stephen Peter Morin, a serial killer who was wanted in connection for multiple murders throughout the United States. He was later apprehended in San Antonio and pled guilty to several murders in Texas. He was given the death penalty, and in 1985 he was executed in Texas's death row. Just prior to his execution, Las Vegas detectives attempted to interview him. However, he refused to speak about his time in Las Vegas. In this video, we have visited the home that Kim Bryant lived in, the high school that Kim attended, the former Dairy Queen that she disappeared from, and the location of where her body was found. There's one last place, and while it's the most important, it's also the saddest. And that location is the grave of Kim Bryant. Here we are, Garden of Resurrection at Palm Eastern. It's a beautiful area. We got the ducks and the geese out. As we walk up, you can see August 1962, January of 1979. This is Kim Daniel Bryant Elliott. Now, her name was Kim Bryant, but her stepfather was so close to her. I'm not sure if he actually adopted her, but they hyphenated it with Elliott. As you can see, the headstone is not in the best of condition here. 20 years ago today, she was discovered. It saddens me to see the headstone in this situation. You're gone but not forgotten, sweetheart. I hope you rest in peace. One of these days I'll come back and see if I can clean up your headstone for you. Time may have forgotten, but hopefully people won't. Rest in peace, baby girl. While visiting Kim's grave, I found myself beginning to tear up. While driving home from the cemetery, I tried to figure out why this case was hitting me so hard. Maybe it was the sad shape of her headstone, realizing that her case was a distant memory. As the father of 2 daughters and several nieces, I could not fathom the thought of getting a call like the one Kim's parents got. Having your child go missing for a month, not knowing what was happening, only to be faced with the fact that some animal had taken her innocence along with her life. Say what you will, but any person who would do this to such a beautiful child is an animal. Shortly after Kim's funeral, Sherry and Edward Elliott left Las Vegas and moved to Missouri. Despite the distance, they regularly called the Las Vegas Police Department and asked for updates on their daughter's case. On June 13, 2020, Sherry Elliott passed away in Everton, Missouri at the age of 79, never knowing what truly happened to her daughter Kim.